The man woke up in shock and realized every single one of his teammates was dead. Jack led a 12-man squad on a top-secret mission, but when they reached the target location, they were ambushed. The entire team was wiped out. Only Jack survived, saved at the last second by the rescue unit. Afterward, Jack was taken in by the CIA for questioning. During the interrogation, he noticed that the mission audio logs had been tampered with. That's when he realized the ambush wasn't a coincidence. Because of a severe concussion he suffered during the mission, Jack was ordered to take time off and recover at home. For a few brief days, he finally got to be with his wife and daughter again. But everything changed when he received one phone call, the call that would destroy his life. When Jack arrived at the scene, he saw his team's logistics officer, Nick, had shot himself with a grenade round. Jack was in total shock. Just days ago, they were at a bar together mourning their fallen teammates. Jack's superior told him that the autopsy confirmed it. Nick's death was a suicide. The weapon used was a standard 9mm handgun, the same model issued to every member of the squad, but Jack knew something was wrong. Nick hated 9mm rounds. He wouldn't have used one, not even to take his own life. Jack was sure Nick didn't kill himself. He told his friend Eric everything. Eric promised he'd back Jack up no matter what. A few days later, Jack went to the hospital for an MRI. As he opened his eyes, a masked man was standing right beside him. Jack calmly asked, "Is this how you killed Nick too?" Before the man could answer, another gun slowly rose into view. Jack exploded into action, fighting both attackers in the narrow room. He managed to overpower one of them, until his concussion kicked in. His vision blurred. The masked man pulled a knife and slashed toward him. That pain snapped Jack back to focus. He countered fast, but the second man grabbed him from behind, locking his arm around Jack's throat. All three struggled violently. Then Jack found his strength. He twisted free, grabbed a fallen pistol, and shot one of the masked men dead. The other one bolted. Jack spun around and fired a shot after him, then chased him down the hallway. When he stopped to reload, Jack realized something horrifying. The gun in his hand was his own, but before he left home, he'd locked that gun in his safe. That meant only one thing. The masked men had already been inside his house. Jack's heart dropped. He jumped in his car and sped home, calling his wife over and over. No answer. When he finally burst through the door, what he saw stopped him cold, and shattered him completely. The next day he attended their funeral. He swore he would avenge them. Meanwhile, reporter Amy arrived at the crime scene accompanied by Agent Holder. Holder said he was the first one on scene. Besides the dead doctor, there were no signs of a struggle. There was no killer's body, and ballistic analysis had been done. Because this was a secure room with no cameras, Amy suddenly wondered if all of this might be Jack's fabrication. After all, he'd suffered a head injury during the mission. That night Amy found Jack. She wanted to know the truth behind the missing 12 operators and told Jack what the police had found. Jack didn't believe it at first, but when Amy revealed that Agent Holder was the first person to arrive at the scene, Jack's alarm bells went off. He remembered that when their comrade Nick was killed, Holder had also been the first on site. Jack's instinct told him this was no coincidence. After carefully analyzing the files Amy provided, Jack put Amy's phone into a signal-blocking pouch and gave her an old model phone to use when contacting him. After Amy left, Jack dug into Agent Holder's background. Suddenly a vision of the attack flashed in Jack's mind. He compared things by hand and jumped to his feet, terrified. Holder's eyes matched the attackers exactly. Using Amy's files and the two incidents tied to Jack, Jack formed a bold suspicion. He decided to investigate Holder personally. Jack's revenge officially began. Every day Jack tailed Holder and ran a deep background check. He passed everything to Eric and, with Eric's help, broke into Holder's house. They stole every file from Holder's computer. Inside the files they uncovered a shocking secret. 2 days before the incident, Holder had secretly stolen Jack's fingerprints from a military system. That confirmed Jack's suspicion. Determined to get answers, Jack crept into Holder's bedroom at night, pocketed Holder's gun, and shoved the muzzle into Holder's mouth. Jack forced Holder to name the people behind it. Terrified, Holder blurted out a name. At that moment Jack felt a sharp pain in his head. Holder tried to fight back, but he had badly underestimated Jack. Jack decisively shot Holder dead. Then Jack staged the scene to look like a suicide, and vanished into the night. But this was far from over. 2 more names were added to Jack's list. Jack readied his high-quality weapons, preparing to personally execute the next target. Jack glanced around and instantly sensed something was wrong. He quickly signaled Amy to leave the area. As they got in the car to drive off, Jack noticed a vehicle tailing them. He suddenly slammed the car into reverse and crashed into it hard. Then he jumped out and fired at the pursuers, taking them down. After killing the driver, Jack grabbed a folder from the car. He tossed it to Amy. It was filled with files about him. Amy finally believed everything Jack had said. Jack sped off immediately. They drove to a parking lot, where Jack told Amy everything he knew, and instructed her to hide. Then Jack went to meet Eric and revealed his entire plan. Jack's next target was Saul, and he needed Eric's help to gather intel on him. The next day, Eric disguised himself as a golfer, and successfully infiltrated the course where Saul often appeared. He carefully studied the area around the target. Meanwhile, Jack prepared his assassination tools. He set up an M24 sniper rifle, grabbed 2 axes from the wall, and once everything was ready, he began his mission. Saul had no idea death was closing in. While he was washing up in his room, a shadow silently dropped from the ceiling. Sensing something off, Saul stepped out to check, but the moment he turned around, Jack appeared behind him and threw a plastic bag over his head, pinning him face down onto the bed. Jack tied him up tightly. Saul soon passed out from lack of oxygen. When Saul woke up, he was naked and bound to a chair. Seeing Jack in front of him, he began screaming for help, hoping the guards outside would hear him. Jack calmly grabbed a remote and turned the music to full volume. No one outside could hear a thing. Once Saul quieted down, Jack started his interrogation. From Saul's mouth, he learned the man behind all of this was someone named Steve, the CEO of a massive industrial group, who controlled much of the Middle East's arms trade. As Jack listened, he immediately recalled the ambush that killed his entire squad. The more Saul talked, the clearer the truth became. He mentioned something called Project RD-4895, though he didn't know its full details. Saul begged Jack to spare him, but Jack's next words shattered any hope he had. Jack said Saul was the one who killed his wife and daughter. Hearing that, Saul's face turned pale with despair. He confessed that the man who ordered the hit was a lawyer named Marcus, the one who hired the killers to wipe out Jack's family. Marcus was currently hiding in a cabin in San Francisco. After getting the confession, Jack injected Saul with a lethal dose and staged the scene to look like a suicide. Then he met with Eric to plan the next phase. 2 new names were now on Jack's list. That night, Jack drove straight to Marcus's cabin, ready to begin the next chapter of his revenge. Jack set up his sniper rifle, placed the wind gauge, and adjusted the elevation turret with precision. Once everything was ready, he waited patiently. A speeding Porsche roared down the road toward his position. Jack didn't hesitate, one clean shot, and Marcus was hit straight through the head. The car lost control, flipped into the air, and crashed down the cliffside. Jack approached the wreck, pulled a phone from Marcus's jacket, and used a data extractor to copy everything from it. Once the upload was done, he drove straight to the airport to meet his friend Lisa. Jack told her everything about his wife and daughter's murder, and the revenge mission he was on. He asked Lisa to fly him to Mexico, but warned her to head back immediately once they landed. Lisa refused. She was determined to stay and help Jack avenge his family, so the two of them went together. On the plane, Jack sent the copied data to Eric, asking him to dig up anything useful before they landed. As the plane took off, Jack pulled out a drawing his daughter had made, flipped it over, and crossed Marcus's name off the list. His third target eliminated, but Jack didn't know. He had already stepped into a political conspiracy. Back in the US, the police launched a full investigation into him. Detective Tony, who was leading the case, was stunned when he discovered Jack's file. Jack wasn't just any soldier. He was a decorated Special Forces veteran, a Silver Star and Army Commendation Medal with Valor recipient. So why had a hero like him turned into a killer? Tony suspected his superiors were hiding something, and he ordered his team to dig deeper. Meanwhile, Jack arrived in Mexico, and met Luke, his late father's old friend, who led a powerful private security force there. The next day, Luke's team finally found the man who killed Jack's family. He had recently returned from Los Angeles, and was now hiding in an abandoned factory in Ensenada, recovering from a wound on his left arm. That detail convinced Jack beyond doubt. This was the man. But the factory was heavily guarded by at least a dozen armed men, sometimes more. Jack didn't care. He was ready to risk everything for revenge. Together with Luke's men, they began planning their assault. But in the middle of strategizing, Jack suddenly collapsed. When he woke up, the doctor told him the tumor in his brain was growing fast, and needed immediate treatment. Jack refused. He just took painkillers to dull the headache. Nothing mattered now but vengeance. The next morning, they drove toward the target's base. Snipers took up positions around the perimeter, while Jack's team moved in from the flanks. When one guard came out of the warehouse, Jack silently took him down from behind. They pushed forward, each man taking position for a coordinated strike. The sniper gave the signal, and everyone opened fire. Within seconds, 4 enemies were down. The team kept advancing deeper into the compound. At one point, they tossed a flashbang into a room, stormed in, and cleared it in seconds. A few enemies tried to escape, but Eric blasted them down with a shotgun. From the mountain above, the sniper covered them, taking out any threats closing in. Then they reached another room, this one full of hostages. Jack had seen this before. He signaled Eric to stay sharp, then shot the last gunman dead, and freed the captives. Pushing forward to the backyard, they finally spotted the target. But as they advanced, a bullet hit Eric from behind. Thankfully, his vest stopped it. He waved Jack on, telling him to finish the job. Jack moved up quietly. Inside, the killer was already aiming at the doorway. The tension was unbearable. Then suddenly, Jack appeared at the window, fired a single shot, and dropped the man to the ground. He stormed inside and restrained the target. Then Jack did something that shocked Eric. He hung the man up, and pulled out his daughter's favorite hatchet. He tore open the man's shirt, and after several brutal blows, the killer finally stopped breathing. But that was just the beginning. The faces that would emerge next were beyond anything Jack could have imagined. On the battlefield, Jack suddenly froze. His daughter was standing right in front of him. He blinked in shock, and just then, a flash of lightning struck, snapping him awake. It was only a dream, but in the real world, his kill list had just one name left. Steve, the CEO of the biggest industrial group in the region. Steve wasn't just a corporate boss, he was an ex-Marine, and he had built his own elite private security team. But for Jack, who lived only for revenge, no obstacle was too great. He would avenge his wife, his daughter, and his fallen brothers, no matter the cost. They began monitoring Steve's every move. After days of surveillance, they realized Steve's mansion was covered with full 360-degree cameras, and he was constantly surrounded by bodyguards. This hit job wasn't going to be easy. Then Jack's arms started to tremble uncontrollably. He suddenly thought of Amy, the reporter. Right now, Amy was investigating the truth behind RD 4895. She cornered Mike, the project lead, in a restroom, demanding to know what RD 4895 really was, and what happened to the special ops team that died. Mike claimed he knew nothing. Amy handed him her contact info and walked away, but Mike couldn't shake off the guilt. He decided to copy all the RD 4895 files, and later contacted Amy through a secure call. They met in person, and Mike finally told her everything. The drug was designed to treat combat trauma for elite soldiers, but its side effect caused brain tumors. Jack and his SEAL Team 7 were the test subjects. The deaths of 12 teammates were no accident. They were part of the experiment. Just as Mike handed over the data, a suspicious man appeared. Amy sensed danger immediately, grabbed Mike, and ran toward the emergency exit. But before they could get far, Mike was shot dead. Amy ran for her life, and as the killer closed in, she turned and shot him point blank. She barely made it out of the subway, only to run into another assassin. Right then, Jack arrived, took her under cover, and got her safely out. Once they were clear, Amy told Jack everything about RD 4895. She also revealed that the ambush on Jack's squad in Syria was orchestrated by Steve himself. He had bribed officials to cover it up, but Amy refused to name those officials. That's when Jack noticed a backpack in the car, with a USB drive inside. Amy tried to stop him, but Jack pulled his gun and forced her to leave. Then he drove off. Jack called Eric, saying he had crucial data, and needed him to trace Steve's accomplices. Eric begged Jack not to drown himself in revenge, but Jack's mind was set. He would get justice for his family and his team. The next day, Eric called back, and what he said turned everything upside down. Steve's partners weren't just the people Jack had already taken out. Even Admiral Pete, the Navy commander Jack once served under, was involved, along with two other officers, Holden and Cox. Jack was stunned. The very command he once saluted was behind the whole conspiracy. He finally understood everything. Jack wrote a list for Lisa, telling her to buy certain items from different stores. Lisa pleaded with him to stay calm, but Jack was past that point. In the end, she gave in. Soon, Lisa gathered everything they needed: chemicals, detonators, casings. Under Jack's direction, they built several shaped armor-piercing bombs. Then they loaded them into a car and drove to Steve's corporate headquarters. Lisa created a fake traffic jam at the intersection to distract the FBI. As soon as Steve walked out of the building, Jack started moving in. But just then, Amy showed up. She wanted to expose Steve's crimes through her own way, completely throwing Jack's plan into chaos. As Steve prepared to get into his car, Amy caught sight of Jack through the window. Her face went pale, and she slowly backed away. Jack also got out of his vehicle. Her movement alerted Steve. He signaled his guards to pull back and get him out. But before the car could move, Jack pressed the detonator. The explosion tore through the street. Steve was horribly burned but still breathing. Jack grabbed his rifle, charged forward, and began shooting. Steve's guards never stood a chance. Jack cut them down one by one, then switched weapons, and walked up to Steve. Steve begged for mercy. Jack didn't hesitate. He pulled the trigger. Then he grabbed a car and sped away. But the police had already surrounded the area. Dozens of patrol cars chased him through the city. Jack broke past the perimeter and headed into the mountains, but they were right behind him. As he rounded a sharp bend, police threw down spike strips. The car skidded out of control and crashed hard into the cliffside. Officers surrounded the wreck, guns raised, and opened fire. When they finally moved in to check, Jack was gone. Only bloodstains remained on the ground. He had escaped into the mountains. That night, under pouring rain, Jack huddled beneath a rocky ledge. He pulled out his kill list, and with blood on his fingers, crossed out Steve's name. But then he froze. 3 new names had appeared at the bottom of the list. This was the one mission the SEAL team dreaded the most, because the man they were sent to capture was once their own legend, Jack. The team moved quietly through the forest, searching every inch of ground, but Jack was already beneath them, hiding in a small tunnel, perfectly still. No one noticed. Then one soldier spotted a phone lying on the ground. He signaled for his teammate to check it out. As the man approached, Jack pressed a remote detonator. A blinding flash filled the woods. A stun grenade. The soldiers were temporarily blinded. Jack jumped up, tackled one of them, snatched his gear, and vanished into the trees. He short-circuited a battery, and tossed it far away. creating a false heat signature to mislead the military drones. But the SEALs quickly saw through the trick and reported Jack's position to command. The order came down fast: surround and capture. Jack kept running, but the tumor in his brain triggered hallucinations. Pain shot through his skull, yet he pushed on. Soon, the special ops team closed in. They called out to him over the radio, telling him to surrender. Jack glanced up at a narrow trail leading to the mountaintop and made a bold move. He sprinted through enemy fire, dodging bullets as he climbed. When he finally reached the top, he raised his rifle and froze. Through his scope, he saw his former brothers in arms. His finger trembled on the trigger. Then he slowly lowered the gun. He couldn't do it. Minutes later, the SEAL team reached the ridge. They searched the area. No Jack. Only one bullet stood upright on a rock. Tony frowned, confused. A teammate said quietly, "Jack could have killed us all back there, but he didn't." Everyone fell silent. After they left, Jack climbed down the cliff. Halfway down, he slipped and fell. Luckily, not far. He wasn't badly hurt, but his old gunshot wound started bleeding again. That night, heavy rain poured down the mountain. Over the radio, the SEALs' voices echoed through the static, pleading with Jack to stop running. They didn't want to fight him. They thanked him for sparing their lives on the ridge. Jack's voice came back, weak but steady. "As a soldier, I followed orders, but as a husband and father, I failed. It wasn't until I held their bodies that I realized that." Hearing that, the captain felt torn apart inside. But orders were orders. Tony had no choice. The next morning, Jack was on the move again. The team sent drones into the valley to track him down. Soon, one drone spotted him in an open clearing. Jack saw it too. He raised his rifle and shot it out of the sky. But now his position was exposed. The SEALs were closing in fast. He needed to act fast. Jack pulled TNT from his pack and planted it along the mountain slope. As he ran the detonator wire, the soldiers appeared and shouted, "Jack, put it down. Don't do this." Caught between two firing lines, Jack's eyes filled with memories. His wife, his daughter, his fallen teammates. He made his choice. He pressed the trigger. The mountain exploded. Rocks and dust filled the air. Then, silence. Moments later, a hand clawed out of the dirt. Jack dragged himself free from the rubble. As he staggered away, he spotted a SEAL buried nearby. Without hesitation, Jack dug him out and performed first aid, until the man started breathing again. Only then did Jack disappear into the woods. Later, the news reported Jack's death. Lisa broke down in tears, but deep down, she refused to believe it. And then, suddenly, Jack appeared behind her. Lisa was overwhelmed with emotion, but there was no time to rest. They packed up immediately, ready to begin the next round of assassinations. How long does it take to make a suicide vest? This was a father's mission of revenge. Jack built his first bomb vest, tested it on himself right after finishing. Then Jack and Eric took a boat to the naval base. Their targets were men Jack once took pride in, a Navy admiral and two commanders. But the FBI had eyes on Jack's every move. To slip past the dragnet, Jack needed a flawless assassination plan. He had Eric pose as FBI and bring Holder's family to the beach. When Jack appeared, Holder stammered that he only handled paperwork for Project RD-4895, he knew nothing else. Jack didn't believe him. He grabbed Holder's son and threatened to throw him into the sea, to make Holder taste the pain of losing family. Holder begged, and Jack spared the family. He didn't spare Holder. Jack forced Holder to deliver a gift to Admiral Pete, then left the beach and turned the follow-up to Eric. Jack found another commander, Cox. They immediately came to blows. Jack subdued Cox and injected a sedative into his thigh. Cox woke up on the sand, tied to a log. Knowing Jack wouldn't show mercy, Cox confessed everything. He named a high-level figure Jack couldn't believe. Defense Secretary Lauren Hatley was the ignition point for the whole conspiracy. Jack left Cox to the tide. As his strength faded, Cox was swallowed by the sea. Holder went to the Naval Command and saw Admiral Pete. He handed Pete a phone. When Pete heard Jack's voice, he cursed. Holder then unzipped his jacket to reveal 2 Claymore mines. Pete begged for mercy. He tried to name the masterminds, but Jack already knew it all. Jack dialed the phone attached to the explosives. The blast tore the place apart. Pete and Holder met their doom. Now only one name remained on Jack's list: Defense Secretary Lauren Hatley. Hatley holed up in a safe house with heavy guards outside. Jack didn't care. They approached the safe house by water. Jack swam in underwater while Eric set up a barrette to cover the perimeter. When Jack reached his position, Eric blew up a speedboat to draw attention. Jack moved toward the safe house while Eric darkened all the lights. Unluckily, a special operations team also arrived nearby. Eric signaled Jack to abort, but Jack refused. He fired an RPG, blew up a vehicle, then opened fire on rushing guards. Jack fought his way inside. On the second floor, he threw a smoke grenade and used thermal optics to pick off the interior security. As he pushed forward, a guard pinned him to the wall. Jack pulled his hatchet from his belt and smashed back. Jack reached Hatley's bedroom. Amy rushed in to stop him. She told Jack Hatley hadn't taken money. Hatley's files contained one last account named Avalon. That account belonged to an agent, the same agent who'd orchestrated the ambush in Syria. Jack wouldn't listen. He insisted Hatley was the architect of RD 4895. Hatley couldn't live with the guilt. He killed himself before anyone could take him. When the FBI arrived, only Hatley's body was left. Jack, exhausted, prepared to leave, but Tony had a gun on him. Tony didn't want to shoot. At that moment the radio confirmed Hatley's death was suicide. Tony watched as Jack slipped into the water and disappeared. The scandal broke in the press, but the final account's mastermind was never found. Jack investigated layer after layer until he uncovered a despairing truth. Eric was on a yacht vacation. As Eric stepped into his cabin, someone appeared behind him. Jack couldn't accept it. The friend he trusted was the hidden hand all along. Through tears, Jack demanded the whole story. In the end, he killed Eric. Then Jack tossed his death list into the sea.